Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics pre-lockout chat ahead of round one. Exciting times for AFL Fantasy coaches. We have had player scores in. There are green dots everywhere, which is fantastic to see. So it really does feel like AFL Fantasy season is kicking off. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find BAILSDT across the socials. And if you guys are tuning in on the replay and want to catch us live every Friday afternoon, we are live 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Perth time. So make sure you come over, get your questions answered, and we can chat through all of that ahead of the Friday night game as we get ready. But joining me is a couple of our fantasy fanatics jumping on to have a chat before we have another game of players locked out, Taezer and Tom. Taezer, I'll start with you. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. Spoke the real things here.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's very, very exciting. And Tom, mate, good to have you on for another pod, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Just got home from work, just in time, and looking forward to locking some more players out tonight.
Yeah, exactly right. So didn't know if we were going to get you for much tonight. We're going to get you the back end. But no, we've got good to have you on to chat ahead of Friday night footy and the rest of the round. So we did have a game last night. So we'll just quickly do a quick recap. We'll do more of an in-depth recap on Sunday night. We'll quickly just go over last night and who we had. I think the main three, and I think all three of us here, luckily, we all had Jagger Smith on field, who was great with 99. We all had Walsh, who was okay. We'll talk about him in a sec with 100. And I think we all had the chef. I think we all had Sam Grill on field, which is nice to get a 90. Taezer, I know we were chatting about this in our group chat pre-game, tossing up whether we were going to go Grill or Lindsay. I know you are playing both. I think Tom's got both as well on field, but I was coming down to who do I play, right? We were chatting about, I think you may Voston being out, and then those guys for West Coast being in. Maybe it's the 50-50s. We'll see how Lindsay goes on Sunday, but all in all, pretty good start for those rookies, particularly, obviously, Jagger and Sam Grill.
Yeah, I was pretty stoked with him, mate. Yeah, so it's all you can ask for. He showed a bit. He liked to run and carry, and the teammates were pretty comfortable putting the ball in his hand. So it's good signs going forward.
Yeah, the observable thirst. Shout out to Dossie for that one there from Sam Grill was obvious. There was one bit where he didn't get kicked the ball when he was up in the middle of the ground, waving his arms up and down. Actually got really annoyed when he didn't get the ball, which is fantastic to see. Tom, I think the one from last night, I think we got 100 from Walsh, right? And you can't sneeze at 100, right? You get 100, you go, cool. Triple figures. There's plenty of times where a player will still just scrape their way to an 80 and we're like, oh, that's annoying, right? 100. But is it safe to say we were slightly underwhelmed, even though he got to 100 with the fact that he was on 66 at halftime, which is probably, if you didn't watch the game, you're probably happy because you see 100 from Walsh, you go, got 7 points value, he's priced at 93. It's fine. Still had a lot of CBAs, had a good role, but just that third quarter where the Blues just looked bad again and just didn't get a lot of it. Many only scored like 8 points.
Yeah, I think you've got to be happy. Like, for him to look as good as he has for 2 weeks in a row is absolutely exceptional. The glass half empty of me saying he looked exceptional for 2 weeks and averages 99.5. So it depends which way you want to look at it. He could be one you could think about moving next week if we get an absolute perfect 30 players. But I think for most of us, with a pretty nice run after his bye, we're just going to keep on and ride out these next few fixtures and reassess.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we were chatting, Taze, before I go to you as well. That bit in the third quarter, right, where we go the 2 free kicks in like 60 seconds, right? You know, fantasy's back when you're yelling at the screen. And for those people watching Watch On last night, I was yelling in the watch along about that bullshit free kick that was holding the man. And I'm sure we were all up in arms watching that game going, what is this crap, when Taranto dropped the ball clearly and got ping for holding the man. It's just, you know, fantasy's back when you complain about umpire decisions and complain about umpires. So we know that footy's back when that is happening, Taze.
Yeah, mate. It just shows like how much it can change. That's a 7-point swing for 2 tackles. So like if he's going 114, everyone's stoked, and instead he goes a flat 100 and everyone's annoyed. He also had his teammates burnt him a couple of times. I clearly remember him being in space and Ollie Hollands just missed his kick to him. And look, that's going to happen for Carlton, unfortunately. But I think he'll be okay. I was going to ask like both of you, if pre-season someone told you that he was that Walsh was going to average 80% time on ground and 85% CBAs, are you going to start him? I think we'd both just say yes. So,
Lock.
or all
Yeah,
just say
lock
yes.
him in. Yep,
So
yeah, exactly. We'll lock him
I'm
in.
pretty happy with that. And one last thing is, I remember a few years back, there was talk of Bont going to a full-time midfield role after playing, being quite forward, and the role was there. He was priced at 99 or 98 or something
That
like
was that
that.
year he went, big.
It was the year he went big, and I think it was the first 6 rounds, he averaged about 98, 100, that kind of thing, and it was high 90s, but it was underwhelming. And then he just dropped the hammer and went on about a 120-point average for the best part of 18 games. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and probably a bit unlucky with the tag last week, and then obviously just he got that cut as well in the first quarter, which probably stuffed out his rotation a bit. Was off for maybe a couple extra minutes, getting those stitches and stuff, and getting all fixed up. And then obviously third quarter got stuck on the bench a bit as well when the ball was across the ground. So, I think we're still okay. Walsh, he still had 30 touches, couple of unlucky frees, probably means it was a 110, 115. So not bad from him. Just some other scores. Obviously, if you had Jaiden Short, 114, only 2 tons in this game here, but for draft would be quite nice. Probably going to cap Sam Banks this year if Short's going to be that involved. He only went the 86. Taranto, 81, 21 handballs there as well. Pitto was looking like he was going to be the R2 pick that we missed, but he slowed down the second half for a 78. Nank, 79. A few like draft relevant guys going okay as well. Lawler, 68, was okay. First quarter was not great, but after that looked pretty good. Just watching last night, he actually had a good game. I thought it was just he's just not going to be a huge accumulator. So I think we're going to have scores anywhere from maybe 60 to 95, 100 if he pops for a big score, but they're probably going to be a little bit up and down. But he went over his price stat by a little bit, so maybe just go, well, first quarter was a bit quiet, maybe just hold the faith. But a few people might have got frustrated a bit there last night. And if you did start a Harry Dean, he only went the 18, so poor score from him. But then also Gibcus went 52, so not awful from him either. So they are the scores from last night, but boys, we still have another 8 games of footy to come, which is fantastic. So one of the we've got a few key decisions to make, so we'll just go through those quickly. I'll go through then captains, which we always do, and then we'll answer all your questions. So if you guys are tuning in live, get your questions in, and we'll answer as many of those as we can. We've got a lot of questions already in the chat, so if you do want to guarantee an answer your question, there is a super chat button there if you'd like to do that, but hopefully we can get to your question and answer that for you. But boys, I think defender rookies is probably where people are looking at. So obviously Grill's one that's already played, whether you played him on field or not. But if you've got a second mid defender rookie, or you're playing 2, how are we ranking Josh Lindsay, Lockie Jakes, and Jai Sarong? And I'll also add in Zeke Yulin, who's in a few teams as well. How are we ranking those 4 guys, Tom? Start with you. How are you ranking the 4 in terms of who you would prefer to field this week?
I think it's a really close call between Lindsay and Zeke. I'm probably going to go Lindsay myself, just because I don't think there's any mouths to feed in that Eagles side. I think we're terrible. Whereas we might see a low time and ground again for Euland that we saw last week. I think he's number 2, Zeke Euland, out of that list. And then I think it's probably Sarong, then Jakes, just on matchup. I kind of have them all fairly similar in my outright scoring ability. It's pure matchup based for me. And that GWS fixture for the Western Bulldogs is particularly hard.
Yeah. Taze, how would you rank those 4?
Probably about the same. Really coin flip between Euland and Lindsay, and then tough matchup for any of Jacques, Sarong, and even that Michael Selwood as well. You know, that's a tough fixture. Selwood's someone who's really popular because he got that double price rise and the 60. I would just be really aware that he scored 40 of his 60 points in one quarter, and some of them was like a patch where he took, I think, 4 tackles in a row, like in a patch of play in a scrimmage, I guess, the ball flicking around. So I don't know if he's going to be a really good scorer against, especially in this tough GWS. So of all the players, the cash players, be really wary of him. Make sure if you're going the Selwood play, maybe have him in utility so he's easy to move on.
Yeah, exactly. If I think I had to rank him, I'd go. I think Lindsay 1, just over ahead of Zeke, just because of the fact I've seen a bit more scoring in the preseason. Even though I think this is a matchup where Zeke can go well, and I wouldn't be shocked if he went quite well this week. I'd go Jakes ahead of Sarong. Just Brisbane matchup, I just don't like at all. Giants, I don't love either, but maybe Jakes just ahead. Just I like the role a little bit better. And then I'd go, Selwood at the bottom, obviously, with that. Just I don't think the scoring will be there for him. Colby McKercher, Taezer, someone that few people are getting a bit of cold feet on, hearing just the talk of more midfield time. But I want to get your thoughts because I'm still fine starting him, right? He's highly owned still. So you sort of go, it's a safe pick. I don't think he's going to go that far below what he's priced at. But I also think that when he scored poorly last year, it was when he was a half forward and got stuck forward and he came up the ground a bit but didn't get involved, right? But there's talk of a bit of midfield time, but one, I don't see him getting a huge amount of midfield time with the fact you still got LDU, Sheasel, you got Foss, who played a lot of midfield time in the preseason. They're going to clearly play him in there. Tom Power's still getting plenty of CBAs. Then you can even throw guys like Parker, Simpkin. I know there's been talk Parker at halfback. I just don't know if I see that eventuating too much, but it may well do. And then obviously you have Wardlaw come back at some point. And Colby is still one of their best halfbacks that they've got. If it's a halfback mostly with a little bit of sprinkling of CBAs, I could maybe see that as a slight positive.
Yeah, look, I'm still pretty big on McKercher. He's actually I'm playing around with just a structure, and I haven't settled on it, and I'm still seesawing between whether I'm going to go with the mid prices, or go with a essentially 2 mid prices or a Uber Primo and a rookie. But I still like him. I think that he's probably going to play mostly halfback. Looking at the team sheet, and it's either him or Finn O'Sullivan, and I think there's more evidence that Finn O'Sullivan is probably going to step into the midfield ahead of him. And I'm still pretty keen on him. He might have some midfield time, but I'd be really surprised if he's half forward.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he will be much half forward. Well, I don't think he'll be half forward at all. Moving into the mids, Tom, probably the other one that people are thinking of is the rookie on field. We've obviously got Jagger, but if you're playing 2 mid rookies, a lot of people might not be. They'll be playing just Jagger and then they're sorted. But for those people that are tossing up, I've got a lot of questions on the watch on last night between Jack Carroll, Willem Dersma. Where do you play Zeke Yuland in the midfield, on the field if you've got him there? Tom Blamires. There's other, like Dyson Sharp, a few people asked about as well. Who would you be favouring on field in that last spot?
I mean, for me, it's Jack Carroll. For me, I think I'm quite comfortable with that. We saw
No Liam Stocker as well.
No Liam Stocker. That was a little worry when teams came out yesterday. Seeing Liam Stocker in there, I think Melbourne at the MCG is a fine, good matchup for Carroll. I think that you've seen a 70 last week. Why are we going against that? There's no big reason to. My number 2 will be Tom Blamires. Half-back for North Melbourne is the best role in fantasy. So I think he's a comfortable number 2. I wouldn't even be against putting him on field over Carroll if you were wanting to be a little bit different.
I thought about that with Hardiman not being named, because that's obviously, I think that helps Colby as well this week, but I also think that could help Tom Blamires as well. No Hardiman, just a bit extra ball.
Yeah, 100%. And then a chasm of gap before you get to the Willem Dersma, Dyson Sharp kind of level. I have Dersma in my side. I do panic about what his scoring ability is going to be, but he's definitely going to stay there because he's expensive. Means it's an easy swap to the rookie that goes better than him if I want to shift off him for next week. That's kind of how I'm seeing it, given I've got a bit of cash in the bank as it is. But yeah, that's kind of the way I'm viewing it for my side, and I think that's the best way. We've got so many rookies that I want to maximise getting as many of them in, because rookies generally make the most cash. So I want to utilise as many of them on field and in my side as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Moving to the ruck line, obviously we have talked about this a lot. I just want to get your boys' ruck lines right. We've talked a fair bit about the rucks. If you guys do want to check out our chats there, we have chatted about them in the Q&A on Tuesday. We chatted about it on Monday for our opening round review as well, chatting through the rucks. We've had a fair bit of chat pre-season, but just want to get your boys' rucks lineups up for now. So I've got English, McAndrew on field, and I've got Vicentini on the bench. I think Sweet. People worried that Sweet was in the extended squad. That's what AFL clubs do. They've got a good backup ruck. They'll name them emergency in case something happens to a ruck where they need to make that change. So that's the reason you'd be there. And Josh Carr's come out and said that he's going to be number one ruck. Whether he's going to score huge, I'm not sure. I think he can go at least 65, 70 and put a bit on his price and be a guy that generates a bit of cash on the bench for us, and plus covers Tim English in round 3 when he's got West Coast, which is good. So, Taze, what's your ruck lineup looking like?
Yeah, same.
Yep, and Tom's got the same as well. So we all got the
Same.
same.
We hashtag chat group thing. But I know this play is very unpopular with maybe other content creators in the community. I'm seeing it as I have 2 shots at major upside. If either McAndrew or Vicentini goes off, then that is a major plus on those that are playing set and forget, where we all think these rucks may regress slightly, some more than others, but we generally think ruck scoring is going to come down, and we've not really seen anything out of the 6 games we've seen so far to go against that ruck scoring, maybe slightly reducing this season. We've got 2 opportunities, whether it be McAndrew or Vicentini, to be that guy who's actually jumping up 30, 40 points in price. And whichever one it is, I've got them both. And whichever one it isn't can get traded out or be my red dot at R3 if it's McAndrew. So that's how I'm looking at it. And then we have the added bonus of getting at least 21, depending on your forward line, makeup in round 3, which may be the difference between having a 50 on field or a 70 on field, which is 20 points closer to winning that car.
Yeah, and exactly. And that 20 points as well is could be a few thousand ranks because the field's going to be so condensed to start the year because of all the early buys. So that's the other thing as well. And the way I look at it, obviously the other popular plays in R3, obviously you've got Zane Zakostelski, you've got Cooper Duff-Tytler, and you've got Mitch Edwards. I'm completely off Mitch Edwards. Geelong is all I probably need to say. Shout out to Jep, who loves Geelong. But 1 week, he could be dropped, and he'll be a purple dot most likely for a lot of weeks when he's not in the team, which is just going to ruin you doing VC. Geelong probably have a lot of early games as well, being how good a team they are. They've probably got a lot of primetime games, so it's probably going to be really rough to loop anyone. And then I look at a Zane Zakostelski, probably a bit better the fact that there's suspensions there, might play key back, but I don't know if he's going to make enough cash to be a pick. And then same with CDT. I look at him and go, he'll have some games of 60, but I think there'll be a lot of 30s, 40s, and low 50s in there, just with obviously being at West Coast and being a key position player. So I want a bit more upside in that pick to make money. I'd actually prefer to go red dot if you're trying to get a cheap ruck. I'd just go red dot, Kalani White, or Harry Barnett, whichever you prefer. But I prefer Kalani White as the ruck forward, and you can VC loop. So that's what I'd prefer with that one there. And then forward, probably the big decision I think for a lot of coaches is Lombard or Devrop at F6. A lot of people might have Budrick F6. So in other words, it doesn't matter this discussion for you. But Taze, if you had to choose between one of those 2, and I'll add in Todd Marshall as well, being the fact he does play North with the tall defensive one, how would you rank the 3 on field?
Probably Marshall 1, Devrop 2, and then Lombard 3. But I could make an argument for any of the combination. I mean, there's a really good chance that Lombard's going to kick a few goals on Tom's poor West Coast. I think I saw they're paying $1 in the betting, and then which doesn't seem like a very good investment.
In a 2-horse race, that is impressive.
Yeah. And then look, Marshall should be pretty solid. He's that third tall. He shouldn't be particularly accountable, and he should be kicking the ball, especially with Sin out. I think there's a lot of scope for him to get some ball, especially in some build-up play. So I'd probably put Marshall one.
Yeah, I'd probably have for the matchup, maybe go Marshall, just with the fact that Tom, as you mentioned, a very tall defensive line for Port probably means he probably got the bit of ball on the head of their rock, just with the matchup against West Coast. I see him kicking a couple of goals and solid, whereas goals going to be with the fact that Jack Graham's back in, so what that switch between, say, wing and midfield, whether he plays any half forward or not. So be very interesting to see how that all goes with there. And then the thing I'm probably tossing on the forward line is if I'm going Gallup, or if I'm and leaving 150k in the bank, or if I'm going a Todd Marshall on the bench and having, say, what would it be, like 30k in the bank. So at the moment I've got Gallup to make that cash, and I'm happy to jump over to Marshall if need be. But that's probably one thing I am still deciding. We do have, obviously, the Content Creators Cup kicking off this week, which is exciting for everyone involved, including us three. Some interesting matchups to kick off round one. So I'm up against DC from Hatchat. So the only difference so far is I've just had Grill on field. So that's the only difference, right? So still a long way to go in the matchup. Who have you boys got? And I'll start with Tom. Who have you got in the Content Creators Cup this week?
Yeah, I've got a rematch of the 2024 car race against Mitch from the Ball Boys. Neither of us won it. I got a little bit closer, but we were both up there. And I the only difference so far is I had Grill on field and he didn't. Much like you, Bales, and I think it might be the same when we move on to Taezer's matchup. So should be a good game early doors.
Yep, Taze.
Yeah, I am playing. Sorry, still navigating the new app and exactly where everything is. I believe I've got Jordy, good man, Jordy.
Yeah, so full-time pod, part-time fanatic, but representing pod in the Content Creators Cup. So will be a very, very good matchup, that's for sure. So I think he didn't have Walsh, so it was just didn't have Grill on field either. So it was just he's just got the Jaggers 9-9. You've obviously got the three there. Some of the other matchups we do have this week, got Jordox is up against newcomer Vams in there so far. Both had Jagger and Walsh. You got Luke and he's up against Louis. Both had the exact same 199 points, Jagger and Walsh. Then you got Mini Monk up against Holmesy. Good matchup there. Both had the two on field as well. You got Guesty's up against Nathan. So just Guesty had Grew on field compared to Nathan just having Jagger and Walsh. Jepper up against DT Lemon. Then you got, Jake versus MJ and Harmy versus the 20th coach, Boz's Spuds. So it would have been good to see the names of them there, whereas I'm just having to decipher whose team's which by looking at the names of the team. So maybe that might be something that gets added onto the app at some point, or when we have the ladder, at least I'll be able to look at that there. So it'll be interesting to see who goes, but obviously the Content Creators Cup is sponsored by Infinite Wealth. So I'm sure that even though the 20th coach comp is over, if you head to infinitewealth.com /AFL Fantasy, guess he's still got some stuff, I'm sure, there for you guys. So make sure you guys do check that out there. So, yeah, beautiful. All righty, well, let's move on to captains for round one of the season. If you want my full 10, head over to the video I posted yesterday for the captains video. So I'll just go through the top 5 at the moment. So the only one played so far was Walsh, who was down at 9. So top 5 had Tim English, number 1, against the GOS Giants. I think he's looked amazing this preseason so far, Tim English, and 129, 124 against Briggs last year. I think he'll run him ragged under the roof at Marvel. I think Calvin also, shout out to Calvin, I didn't count this stat. So Calvin, who's a true pirate, number 1, said that last 10 or something at Marvel was at 122 average for Tim English. So huge average at Marvel. Loves playing on the roof. I got him at 1. Noah Anderson at number 2, come up against the Eagles, scored 117 and a 98 against them last year. But we saw what the Port Boys did in the preseason game against West Coast, and they're going to give up a lot of points. I think Nando's going to be something that's going to go really well. Caught a bit of attention last week. Still scored a ton with 1 goal 4, I think he had. So if he can kick some goals there, that's going to be a big score incoming. Since the video yesterday, I've bumped Jordan Dawson down a couple of spots. I've put Rosie at 3, Butters. Sorry, I put Butters at 3, Rosie at 4. So obviously they've got North Melbourne, really good matchup there. I think they'll both go quite well. And I bumped Dawson down to 5 because just a little bit of talk about Perryman still being in the midfield and maybe staying on Jordan Dawson there. So I've got Dawson bumped down to 5 because of that. And there's a chance he could be bumped out for, say, a day cost at 5. We've got at number 6. But at the moment, I've just got Dawson still sitting in there as well. But I think most of us have got one of those, at least 3 of the top 4. So I think you're going to be going one of those guys. So as I don't have any red dots and none of us have red dots, we're all going straight C's. So I had the Walsh VC last night, wasn't enough to get a red dot in. I'm going Tim English as my captain. Taezer, who's your captain for this week?
Yeah, straight into Tim English. Completely agree with your assessment of, he should run Briggs over the field, and I liked how much he was getting involved in play.
Yeah, exactly. Tom?
Yeah, I'm also on English. It's purely because he can't get any attention. He's a ruck. Whereas the others could. There's a chance of them being called or tagged or even rested if the game's going their way early in the year. So he to me is the safest in what I think will be a pretty competitive matchup, which I think will help keep Tim English his TOG nice and high for us fantasy coaches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that is my top few coaches, top captains for the week. So as I said, top 10, you can head to the video that was posted yesterday. Tom, you going to say something there? Yeah.
One thing I just want to mention, and I say this a lot in chat, of what's your line for a VC loop and putting in a red dot? My advice would be if you've got a red dot anyway and you decide you want to go Makanju R2, red dot R3, great. Take whatever your respective line is. Mine's always 110 early season. Yours could be higher. If you're not planning to do a red dot, to me, the score has to be so high that you just can't not take it. So I'm talking like 140 plus, 150 plus. It has to be a round-changing score to change your structure to put a red dot in. I would put that red dot at R3. So I'd be wanting to get that all sorted before McAndrew plays. You've got a Vicentini that's a little bit different. So it has to be done before he plays, his first game on Sunday. So that's where I would be looking. It would have to be stupidly high this week only to change your initial structure. We are going to have bye plays for the next 3 weeks. And then realistically, the chance of having 30 green dots coming out of these first 4 rounds are very low. So then you'll have a loop going forward. We also have the 50% TOG threshold this year, which has a little bit more jeopardy of putting red dots in, where you might be able to cover injured players. So you're going to leave the emergency to do its actual job. So I think that VC threshold to do looping has to be much higher this year. So that's just my general advice over round 1 looping and putting red dots. So that's what I would do. And someone who I maybe even would think about if you want to do a red dot is maybe somebody like an Isaac Rankin, if you're keen for them this year. Put him in round 1, cover him this week with a Lombard or a Deverop. He's a red dot for you. There's your captain loophole. And then he's there for your round 2 going forward. That's just a little option if you want a red dot. That's where you could go.
Yeah, I was originally thinking Nick Newman would be that guy, but he played the first game, so it doesn't matter. You can't use him as a loop. So, but no, Rankin could be someone there that you do potentially use. I just looked on Twitter as well. Apparently, someone asked, shout out to Nadio SC, said, "Where's Kirch playing?" And North Melbourne quote tweeted it and said, "You're just going to have to roll the dice on this one, Nate." So interesting that North Melbourne, the Twitter, the X accounts are getting involved in this and seeing what's happened. So trying to throw everyone out there. So we'll have to see what is happening there. But let's get stuck into these questions that you guys are asking here. So we do have a couple of super chats to kick us off. So we got was that Sorbo Doggy 75 has asked that there. We should come just with the name, not the actual username there. But anyway, we'll go with that. Saying, hey guys, is Murdoch and Watkins watch and see? So Tom, I'll go to you being Murdoch's an Eagles man. What do you think with Murdoch and Watkins? They just because they're 230k, we probably prefer Blamise. Are they just, as Saw by Doggy says, watch and see and trade into in round 2, or are you happy to start either?
Yeah, Sorbo's got it sorted. That's exactly what I'm doing with these two. I want to see their role. I want to see their time on grounds. With especially with a few moving pieces in both their sides in future weeks, with Liam Baker to come back for the Eagles, Ollie Wines in a couple of weeks to come back for Port. I'm happy to have a watch for a week, maybe even two. Just see their roles, see where they fit in. If they're integral part with good scoring, they can jump on, and you're still going to get the majority of that cash gen being basement price.
Yeah, fully agree with that one. But thank you, Sobodogi, for the super chat there. And Tim's got, hang on, sorry, before we go, Tim's super chat, Taze.
I was just going to quickly add with Watkins that he's covering Ollie Wines, so I would absolutely wait 2 weeks unless Port pick up another injury that makes Wines the next man in, because he's going to be playing that part of that mid rotation, and I'd be surprised if Wines just doesn't come straight in and take his spot. Yeah, he's a club legend, Brownlow winner. It'll be a huge shock for the AFL if someone like Watkins didn't lose his spot to Ollie Wines.
Yeah. You've also got a Will Brody in the background, right? If he has a couple of good Sandford games or whatever comes in, there's another guy sort of, so that spot is up for grabs there as well, unless they play someone like a Watkins more forward.
Yeah, and with exactly with Murdoch, the real question is what role is he going to play, because his numbers in the waffle have been exceptional. This is like a Michael Barlow style guy who just racks up hundreds in the waffle for years on end, but he's probably going to be playing as a pressure forward. And although he can tackle, like his tackle numbers are, like he averages 7 or 8 tackles a week in the waffle, but that's usually when he's around the ball. So I'd watch for a week, see what his role is, and especially because he's taken up a midfield spot. If he had forward status, I probably would have started him.
Yeah, I would have 100%. I would have probably started Murdoch or Watkins if they had forward status, to be fair, as that F8 on the bench there. So, yeah, a couple of guys will be watching for sure. Tim, it's got a super chat there. Thank you, mate. Saying about Parrish or no. And I know he's been tossing up Parrish or Winhager as an option. I'm not sure about you boys. I'm still for Parrish, right? I'm not expecting him to average over 100. I was joking with Jake that every time Jake fades a sort of a fairly popular guy that's not expensive, they always turn out to be almost top in the line. So I was like, Parrish guarantees can average over 100 and be near a top 8 mid. But I still think Parrish is good. Like the thing with him, Tom, I want to get your thoughts, is that Parrish can't anywhere else. He's midfield only, right? Dunn can play forward. Merritt can play forward. He can play defence, but he's probably going to be midfield as well. Archie Roberts can play all 3 positions as well, as we've seen. And Jai Caldwell's probably the other one as well. It's probably going to be in there a lot. So I think it's Parrish and Caldwell. I think the other guys probably fit in around those two, knowing that probably Parrish and Caldwell aren't going to play high 80s, probably going to play somewhere in the mid 70s, maybe high 70% game time. So is that your thinking? You're still fine with Parrish?
Yeah, I just, it's another one. What has Parrish done to make you want to remove him? Like, he was a lock from early preseason. He's uninterrupted preseason, had that mid-roll in the practice game. You're only removing him for Winhager because Winhager got 116 last week in a very uncontested game.
Is this just down to a few people just getting like typical sort of round one sort of people overthinking things, like with overthinking like Colby? Steele has been the one that still did nothing wrong. He scored 62 and 2 and a bit quarters in the Pracky game as well and looked great in the preseason. So is it just that we're starting to get to that stage where we've had such a long preseason, so much content to digest, that we're now going, because everyone's the same, maybe we're trying to differentiate by trying to find something that might not be there.
And recency bias. We saw Winhager play an awesome game last week. Now, I'm not saying Winhager's a bad pick. You could go both. If you really want to attack that price point in the midfield, you could definitely go both. He's done nothing wrong to get to remove him from your side. He's cheaper than Winhager as well. He's going to have, for me, a more consistent role. St Kilda's run for defenders is pretty bad after this week as well. Doesn't have a bye. I don't know why I would have taken him out. And if he stinks it up tonight in a really tough matchup against Hawthorn, I'm happy to be wrong, and we can deal with that next week. I just don't see what he's done wrong.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm still keen on Parish Taze as well.
Yeah, and I think Vams has given a great interview before, I believe with Selby, where he talked about players that are hitting zone. And I've found anytime I try and pick a breakout just from like natural progression, or like just for some reason this guy is going to go from being an 80 guy to being a 100 guy, really hard to nail it. But Parrish is a guy, we've seen him go 105, I think 2 or 3 seasons in a row. And the only reason Parrish isn't going to score is if he's a low time on ground. And when you look at that Essendon lineup, it's probably more likely to be someone like Dyson Sharp. So I'm really happy to go into the season with Parrish. He's got that price of 70, and his upside is just so much more than his downside. He's an easy player to pivot off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Got a super chat from Henza as well. Spicy take. Nick Cost averages 120 plus for the season. Oh,
That's the least spicy
it's
take
funny.
I've
So
heard
it's an elite spicy take, and it's spicy as well. But if there's anyone that's going to do that, he's one of probably a couple that's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. But it is spicy though, because we haven't seen anyone really go that, not many at least, go 115 plus, let alone 120 since like, yeah, I think Roy Laird might have been the last one. So I'm glad I could say Roy Laird in the pod again. And I think Jack Steele, Toot Miller before that. So I think they're the last few that have done it. So yeah, it would be very spicy considering the lower scores of late. So Henza, like that spicy take very much, Taze.
I would just say one thing with that is, if you look through the history of fantasy, the kind of guys who usually average, like who get close to that 120, are nearly always guys who are not damaging by foot. So, back in the day, you've got Rockcliffe, you've got Tom Mitchell, you've got James Swan, when Pendlebury's standing next to him and getting attention. Brody Grundy, Rucks are a little bit different. I mean, there's a lot of people who would say the Ruck scoring is kind of broken anyway, but Grundy, Gawn, it's not a lot of guys who go 120 when they're really damaging, just because you can't score these massive scores without teams putting attention into you.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say as well, I found this quote on Twitter just now as well, but also the Ball Boys talk about this. Did any of you boys hear the quote from yesterday from Craig McRae? I don't know if it was yesterday, the press conference, or if it was after the game Sunday night, but this was the quote. I didn't realize that this was the quote that was said. So Craig McRae and Dan Houston said, "We want the ball in Dan's hands. There was clear instruction. Dan takes all the kick-ins. Let's get the ball in his hands. He's such a weapon, probably the best kick in our team." All the kick-ins. If anyone out there was going, Houston's a trap, I'm not sure, I'd be locking him in after that. That is as juicy a quote as you can get from a coach for us fantasy coaches. So it's just music to our ears, and maybe people that were saying, I'm trading for sure next week, maybe they go, let's see how it goes. Because if that's the case, he could have a big year. So just for you guys to get your thoughts as well, there is so much chat in the chat as well, which we all appreciate, right? I remember the show me Guesty started, there wasn't, when we're doing live shows, we can answer every question because there wasn't as many, right? Whereas you guys smashed every week. It's very, very hard to keep up the chat. So if you got a question, chuck it at the bottom of the chat and we'll go through these questions now. So apologies if you did it before. There's so much that we'll get through. Yeah, keep them at the bottom there as well. But Taze, your thoughts before we move on to some other questions.
Yeah, look, the big actual reason that I'm interested in Houston is not his score. That I see I see that score and the double price rise as a bit of a safety. Like if I'm wrong, well, at least I can walk away with probably 80 grand or something like that while I change him. The reason I'm really interested with Houston is there was a clear game plan change from Collingwood. They took about 40 marks more. Yeah, 147 marks. But they took about 40 marks more than their highest mark games last year. Like they really decided to change the way they were playing. They've got Tyson Goldsack as their new ball movement coach. He was Dan Houston's old coach. They're clearly moving the ball around. It's not just a St Kilda matchup. Now we'll see. We'll know for sure when we see him play Adelaide, because if they go around and go 100, even close to 100 marks, and they show that they're a high scoring team, then there's a lot of guys with upside in, especially the Dacos brothers in that Collingwood side, because they become really fantasy friendly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, we talked about this before, but the AFL's a copycat league, right? Brisbane have won 2 premierships in a row, and teams are going, how can we emulate that to make our system as good as Brisbane and be able to beat them, or at least compete with them? And Brisbane chipping it round a lot, kicking those 44-degree kicks, but then also being able to change mode. Collingwood are one of those teams that can play that game style. They've got good ball users by foot, so they can do that. So
also, just one last thing with Collingwood, what's the knock on them all pre-season? That they're old, that they're not going to have the legs. Well, what's the easiest way to help get those older guys to the finish line? It's not to burn them out playing the hardest game style running in the first half of the season. It's keep the ball a bit, keep the ball around.
Yeah. This was mentioned. I can't remember who it was. It was one of the players after the game. It was like St Kilda came with lots and lots of heat. We're an older group. One way to beat high intensity is to possess the ball. Is to take something out of the game by possessing the ball.
Another team that brings the heat at times, as well as the Crows, right? And really after finals last year, they're going to bring it early. So you think Collingwood will go, okay, let's control a bit more to start. So, yeah, I think that's definitely what's going to happen, at least a lot of games this year for Collingwood. We have another super chat from Haz as well. Thank you, mate. He's saying fielding Dev Rob F6, Gallup on the bench and 156K left over. Geez, I'm a bit worried, mate. You might have the exact same as me, 156K left over with those two. So, Haz, I'm not sure if you're a Patreon member, and I looked at my team reveal yesterday, maybe you're copying everyone that I've got. So he's saying, or field Marshall F6, Dev Rob on the bench and 25K left over. Cheers, lads, and good luck. So again, I would have 25 left over with that exact same decision, because it Gallup to Marshall. So you're probably thinking exactly how I'm thinking. So Taze, what would you do? Would you do Gallup on the bench with a bit of money to be flexible? Because that's what I'm thinking at the moment. Or would you get Marshall on the bench with not much cash left over?
I hate to do a cop out, but without knowing your whole side, I'd feel hesitant to say Gallup, because I think Gallup's only a really good play if the rest of your rookies are set. If you've got someone like Selwood at D8 and you've got other cash play guys that could blow up, I think Gallup's potentially a bad idea, because someone in the chat I saw before said that Gallup's not even in the Lions' best 23 when everyone's fit. So I think that's smart, and I think it is a good play. And currently in my side, I have Gallup there, but I'm looking at moving off him. It probably depends on how some other players go in the rest of the round. It might be someone that I change to Marshall, or or another player if I need that surety, because Gallup could be a red dot after the bye almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably the big one's probably Hipwood, right? Whenever Hipwood comes back, he might be the one that pushes Gallup out. But I think Hipwood's still he's not back till mid-season. So there's still, I think his job security, at least for the first part of the year, will be quite good. So,
they might go small. They might go one smaller. They might go smaller. They still have. I know Morris is injured this week. Like Morris, Draper, Allen as 3 tall with Fort. That's plenty tall enough.
Yeah.
Like they might go 1 tall less. You don't even need Hipwood to be back if they go, let's say, a tall shorter.
Yeah. The other good thing with Gallup is you get to loot Dev Rob Lombard next week. There's another round 2 forwards on bias. That's another positive. If you don't trade him out next week, but you can always trade him out to the forward rookie that does pop there as well. Gus Glasson is asking Windsor or Blackiston. I think we're going Blackiston out of that one there, but Windsor's someone I think we are still considering. We do have one from, so Gunner says Gallup or Dovison gone from that, Tom. Are you Gallup over Dovison, the cash rise?
I think I am. I don't know that much about Dovison, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm some sort of expert. I see him as a small forward. Small forwards aren't traditionally the best scorers, you already have a 60 odd in the price cycle with Gallup. It's probably what I'm taking. But I could be wrong about Doveston as a player. He might get higher up. I just don't quite see it in a proper game. He did okay in the practice game. I was quite impressed, but whether that actually happens in fully fledged footy, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Tony Ford's got a super chat. Thank you, mate. He's asking about Sharp or a 230k guy like Murdoch, Watkins, or Selwood. So, Taze, would you go Sharp for the safety and be able to watch the other guys, or would you go one of those three?
Yeah, I would go Sharp. I want to watch a week with Murdoch and Watkins. I would consider Selwood if the rest of your side is very safe. So, that's why similar situation to Gallup that we just had before, and even like Gallup over Doveston. I mean, Gallup's going to be worth more than Doveston. You can go down from Gallup to Doveston next week, provided the rest of your team's pretty set. So, same kind of thing. I'd probably prefer to start Sharp and then know that you can make a downgrade to any of those guys if Sharp's not looking the way you want him to tonight.
Yeah, fully agree with that one. Sweat's got this one asking, is Josh Rachelle a trap or treat? Again, he's another one I think has been put into this basket of would people are trying to overthink because we didn't see him in opening round. Whereas I think this is where everyone's going, all these games in opening round, we've got to fit all in. We've got to put them all in, right? Rachelle, we saw nothing in the preseason to suggest that he's going to be a trap. He's trained the full preseason in the midfield. He trained even in the preseason in the midfield last year, just didn't get much opportunity, right? Because he got that injury. Rankin started in there and was started like house on fire, so they couldn't really put him in there much. Whereas Rankin the first week, Rachelle training in there, Rachelle looking good in there. Crows have got injuries, and also the Crows struggled last year. The back half of the year, same midfield. When you had Dawson in there, but then you had guys like Peatling, they threw Laird and Keys in there, but you also had like Saligo and Berry and all these guys are the same player, right? Dan Kirkman in it often some different, obviously he's there as well. So I just think Rachelle is in there. And I think worst case, he's still going to have about 40% CBAs and he's still going to average mid to high 70s at worst, I think. And he's going to be someone that's still value. And you can then, if you don't like it, you can trade off to it. We've got forward options. We've got plenty of them. We've got Murphy Reid, who's got a tough match this week. Goes where you trade to him. Law didn't do enough like last night. But then if you're not starting a Buderick or starting any of these guys, you can jump to them even though they've got the round 3 bye. You've got Phillippo. You've got Connor McDonald. You've got there's options there that you can go to, and if you've got Buderick F6, you can go down to a rookie and use that cash elsewhere. So there's options to pivot from. So I'm still on Rachelle, and then Gunline said for Rachelle, I'm Rachelle out of those two as well. Probably helps better with structure. And then Schultz is also asking Matt Rachelle or Phillippo. Taze, I'm still Rachelle over the 3, and I've probably got Connor McDonald last because he's the most expensive.
Yep. Yeah, I still like Rachelle. I think he's shown over the preseason he's got the best role. It's that simple.
Yeah. Moonboy, Houston versus Windsor plus money. Tom, is it just get Houston in after these quotes and everything we say?
To me, it's Houston, and if it doesn't work, you go down to Windsor. We want to watch Windsor in a proper game of foot in the midfield. We've seen one game where he's been in the midfield and not scored, and one half a game where he had a really, really good quarter. I kind of want to see it again. And if I see it and it's great and he gets a really nice score, good roll, look like he's got an accumulator ability, which he hasn't had in it through his junior career, then we can always make that trade or bring a rookie up to him if that's if one of our rookies fail. So that's kind of where I am with us.
What would Houston failing look like to you guys? Because Crows are a much harder matchup than St Kilda, obviously. He's probably, even if he plays well, he's probably only going to get 85, something like that. What's a win? Is it more to do with roll and eyeball?
Yeah, I think for me, because the thing I saw with Houston last week was roll and score and eye test. They all look great. It wasn't just got the ball a lot and got a lot of +6s. He was getting involved in those switching ball plus chains. He was getting involved in handball receives, going forth. He was taking kick-ins, and he was getting up the ground as well, as I said, linking through like handball chains and everything. So for me, he looked like he did at Port Adelaide. He's a 9 averaging defender. And yes, he can be up and down. But with Josh Dacos there, it's the guy that's going to get more attention from him, and Nick Dacos, he can go about his thing, not about any attention going his way. So I think that he's in for a big year.
Yeah, it's 60 plus game style. I think not necessarily role. It's a Collingwood game style that I'm not bothered about. It's like Houston's not going to play a lockdown defender. That's not him. But are Collingwood still possessing the ball, looking for marks? If they are, then my line is much lower. Anything with a 5 in front of it, I think I'm just going to get off and say, yeah, cool, take the cash, go somewhere else. I'm currently fading McKetcher and Bergman for that reason. I kind of see one of them in my side from round 2 onwards, in some way or shape or form. There's many ways I can get there. And I want to watch them, and that's part of the reason why I want to watch them. I'm going with the Houston play. If it's 85 plus roll, he's not going anywhere. He's just going to stay there. So that's kind of...
Yeah, exactly. Mike Perez got this question. I keep actually forgetting to do this at the end of pods. I have to make sure I put this at the end of pods. But he said, can we get your team names to add as foes? So what I'll do, I'll write in the run sheet from now on when we say, like, you can find us on X at da-da-da. We can't find us at da-da-da, but you guys know what I mean. I'll say our team name, so you can then follow our team name. So my team name is Bales Nails. That's the team name there. So if you want to add that, you can. Taze, what's your team name for people to add so they can keep track of how you're going?
Mine's a Taezers. Taezer with an S on it.
There you go. That's pretty simple and easy to follow that one. Tom, I think a lot of people know where they could find your team.
Mine is still Pod United, and it will be for the remainder of time.
Yep, exactly. Even when we're all past and it's like 21:50, it'll still be like it'll be Pod
My
United.
Great grandkids.
Maybe, yeah,
my great grandkids will
keep the torch going on. Jacob Clayton also asking Rachelle or Murphy Reid. I'm still Murphy Reid. I'm still Rachelle over Murphy Reid and want to watch Murphy Reid this week. So that's the thing, right? You can look and see what Murphy Reid's going, but I know that Tom is pretty keen on both.
I've got a selfish question about my own side. Murphy Reid or Todd Marshall in cash? To me, it's a question of which one's more risky. And I would sooner
Marshall's more risky.
But then you've got price to go into the risk factor. So Marshall is more risky, but he's priced at 35. Not 55. I only need Marshall to go 60, 62.
This would have been good. This would have been good if the Freo game was later in the round, because then you could have a bit more information. That's why, I'm glad Gallop's playing tomorrow night. I can watch these games tomorrow and adjust if I need to go to Marshall or not. But I'm Murphy Reid.
I have the cash either way. There's no stipulations the rest of my side. It's whether I've got Murphy Reid there at the minute. I'm debating going to Marshall, purely because I'm really liking that Port backline makeup with Rattigalia coming back into the side, having Rattigalia and Aaliyah to play lockdown. Lockie Jones is going to do nothing else but lockdown. That's all he does. He's a lockdown defender, and that leaves Todd Marshall to basically do whatever he wants, is how I view it. That might be wrong, but that's how I view it from the outside looking in. And then they have a couple of ball distributors down there with Farrell, and then I think Rosie will play down back and Bergman in the midfield, despite how they're named.
Yeah. So Tom, I've seen Murphy Reid several times over the summer in match play, in practice, in training. He looks unbelievable, but Freo have not changed their game style. They are handball forward. They have very, very little marks. And they have a clogged up midfield. They, especially with Darcy coming back into the side, they're going to somehow fit Brayshaw, Sarong, Young. Now Luke Jackson's going to be a midfielder. Then Boltons are there, who they're paying over $1 million a year. They want to get something out of. Then how they're going to give any meaningful and how they're going to give any meaningful centre bounce time to, or centre ball up time to Murphy Reid in a side that at times were struggling to score 1,300 points last year. So I would rather jump on if he looks like he pops And we talked about guys like Rachelle. You can go down from Rachelle to Murphy Reed if he pops.
Yeah, that's kind of where my Friday the 13th thoughts are. It wasn't where my Tuesday the 12th, Thursday the 12th thoughts were. So yeah, thanks for the advice, chaps. I hope the viewers at home got a little bit out of that as well. So I feel like you could replace Murphy Reed with a couple of other those mid-price forwards, who maybe are a little bit more punty in nature.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people asking about like what's it called? Like I know someone said about Bergman, he named it halfback, Shelley named forward pocket. We've talked about this before. Don't look at team sheets. Like you're better off probably just looking at ins and outs, not looking at team sheets. Maybe just see who's on the bench, right? But it's not the coaches that put in the team sheets. It's admin and everything, right? So just put players in. Maybe they're given. Maybe they just chuck them in random spots, right? So don't look at that. Like there's players that are named in different positions, not even just those guys. So don't look at that. Look at what you've seen in the preseason. Look at what role you reckon they're going to play. And that's what I think it's going to go. We'll do a couple more before we do wrap up. Eskimo Brothers asking about Winhager. So we had a bit quick about him before days, but what's your thoughts on Marcus Winhager as an option, just separate to if it's him v Parrish or him v Don? What's your thoughts on Winhager?
I'm finding Winhager as someone a little bit risky. He looked great, and you can use his opening round score and his opening round performance to kind of hide behind. But I still think that he's going to be a lever that Ross pulls if he needs to clamp down on someone. So, for example, last year, St Kilda played the D's twice. Both times, Winhager did a clamping job on Cozzy Pickett and kept him to 50 odd fantasy points and low goals, low possession, low impact. Why wouldn't they do it again? We don't care about St Kilda people and coaches. They don't care about fantasy and whether he's going to break out. They want to get a result, and they nullified the best player. So why wouldn't he do it again? He's that perfect guy who can play midfield, negating, and he can, if Cozzy pushes forward, then he goes back to his halfback role.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Hugo Jarcia did a horrendous job at trying to contain Nick Dacos last week in a defensive role. Like that St Kilda midfield had a lot of forward-facing guys in it, and I think that might change in some way because they haven't really replaced a steel-type defensive midfielder. And yeah, I'm just a little bit more wary. But if he keeps at half-back, I think he'd be absolutely great. So
he does look good. I'm not going to talk you out of it. If you like him, keep him. Back yourself in. He looked unbelievable, and his two scores are about 120 and then early 149 or something in the preseason.
Yeah, 140. Yeah, so a couple of big scores there. So, final question we'll go for to wrap up the Friday show is from Casey Johns. A few people asked this last night. Should I get a red dot, maybe a Whitlock in defence, so I can take Grill emergency score? Also have English VC. What does English need to score as a VC? So I'd say that English would have to go 140 odd, 150 plus. I don't think 90 is enough to take a red dot to forego cash gen. I think 90 is a great score. If you got on field, great, right? But you've also got a pretty good chance you got a chance at least of having one of Lindsay or a Jakes or a Sarong going 60, 70, and you lose 20 points. It's not the end of the world. It's rookie roulette, as we all know. So are you boys in agreement with that just unless English goes 140, 150, you'd be still sticking just with 30 green dots and not worry about the 90 on the bench?
Yeah, I see the red dot as it's like, say, the rookie gets to 500k. That's 300k of cash. That's the difference between a mid-pricer and a premium later in the year. So that's like 10, 15 points every single week. More, 20 points, 30, could be 30 points a week rather than giving up 30 points for 1 week. So for me, that score's not, if it was 120, 130, like Nick Martin got a couple of years ago in round one, there's a choice. I'm not doing it for 90, given I'm in the privileged position that I have it on field. But that's like my thoughts.
And Tom, just quickly, like being the one guy on here really has the credentials. You got got number one with weeks to go, and the thing you told me
game to go.
Game to go, yeah. And the one thing you told me is that if you had your time again, you would have focused a little bit more on the cash gen, because that's what happened.
It was cash gen late. To be fair, my cash, when I got to top spot round 13, 2024, my cash was top 5 in the top 50. By the end, I was bottom 5 of the top 50 in cash. I thought I forgot cash too early, but to get to that point, I just look at people in my home league. I had like a whole $1 million more than other teams. I had a whole extra premiums worth of on field. People still had rookies when I had premiums. And that's how I gained my advantage through the early point of the year. Like DT11, 4 top 400 finishes in a row, preaches cash. I don't know anybody who's finished up there who's gone, cash doesn't matter. Just pick the best players. Like cash it's very different to other fantasy games like FPL, where cash matters but not as much. In AFL Fantasy, cash is almost the only thing that matters in these first 5-6 weeks. Obviously, we don't want to not score points, and it's a trading game and all that kind of stuff, and we still need our premiums. But we want to pick players to score points who aren't going to drop cash, and everyone else to make it. And a red dot's not making any cash.
Yeah, exactly.
10 points.
Fully.
A VC loop for 10 points. It doesn't. To me, it doesn't really matter. But
who's to say you throw away a position for a red dot so you can get a 140 VC? Who's to say that Butters isn't going to go 130 on Sunday, or Rosie, against North Melbourne, or even Jack Steele, who has plenty of 130 scores, and why wouldn't he smash his old side?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's another reason why I'm starting Jack Steele. Jack Steele got forced out of that footy club, his footy club, that he was captain for years. He got forced out. He's got a point to prove this week.
Minimum 10
He's
tackles.
going to be up and about.
Yeah, I might have to look at the market to see what he's paying for those tackles, because I think he's going to tackle a lot. But that'll do us for the first Friday Pre-Lockout Chat of the season. Obviously, we had the one with opening round, but our first in-season fantasy one is here as well. So I'll wrap up. But Taze, mate, thanks for jumping on another one. Where can the people find you? And obviously from me to you, good luck this week.
Thank you very much, mate. You can find me at Taezer87. If you want to look me up and add me to what is it, as a foe? Is that what you call it?
Foes,
or
yes. New thing. Yeah.
Foes or rivals? The Taezers, and you can find me on X. Really excited to get back into actual playing, and this preseason is over.
Yeah, exactly right. And Tom, mate, good luck this week as well. And where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Tom_Hales_. My team name is Pom United, and just Blackiston and Parish for me tonight. So if anyone's got anyone different, I hope they go well. If you've got the same, I hope we're very happy come about 8 o'clock our time out west.
Yeah, exactly. And you can find me at BAILSDT across socials. Bales Nails is my team name, so you can add me there as well. And you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X. We'll be back on Sunday night for our round 1 review, which is always our biggest show of the year. So make sure you guys, I'm sure a lot of you will be looking at maybe tinkering around with trades if we get the lockout released early. We might have to wait the next day, but hopefully it's all there. We'll be live at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Perth time, going through all the round 1 action. Beg about as well, you're doing any watch songs to see? Yes, we had one last night. I'm taking tonight and tomorrow night off. This week has been chockers with content, right? So I just want to relax tonight, sit down, watch the footy, And so we'll be back with more watch longs every week. So make sure you guys stick to the socials for that as well, and stay tuned for that one. So, like everyone this week, don't stress, don't make wholesale changes to decide. You've done all the work, you've done all the research, you've watched these pracky games, you've looked at notes, everything, you've taken it all in. Don't make wholesale changes because one thing happens. We saw a few people a few years ago, was it Brady Granny dropped a stinker in the first games people made. I think Vam's talked about that, mate. He made a lot of changes that stuffed his tail up. And he was saying as well. So just, to make sure you guys don't do that. Stay true to what you've seen the preseason. Good luck. Hope your players go well. Hope you smash at a big score. And looking forward to seeing all of you guys on Sunday night. So enjoy the footy, everyone. And we'll catch you for our review. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.